Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Andy here and welcome to another Formula 1 2019 season race review. It is the French Grand Prix from Paul Ricard that we're looking at today, and looking through my notes, this might not take as long as some of the others. We'll see, because we do know I like to ramble. But getting on to it, the tyre allocation this weekend was the C2, C3 and C4, so the middle three compounds were available. In the build-up, Ferrari were appealing the penalty to Sebastian Vettel from the Canadian Grand Prix, the 5 seconds he got for an unsafe rejoin that cost him victory in Montreal. That appeal was heard on Friday afternoon between both the two practice sessions between FP1 and FP2, and was subsequently chucked out because the FIA deemed that there was not sufficient new evidence. The new evidence that Ferrari presented, 5 of the pieces out of the 7 the stewards had access to, the other 2 were not deemed suitable enough because one was the 360 degree view camera, which the F1 Twitter page put out in the week leading up to Canada, and the other one was Karun Chandok's Sky Sports F1 analysis piece, which gave all the same camera angles and everything and all the other details that they already had. So not only are Ferrari terrible at making a mess of strategies, they're also terrible at appeals, it would seem. So that got chucked on its head. End of story. Problem is, it's set a precedent now, but we'll come on to that. Into practice itself, and it was quite clear this is going to be a tyre weekend. Soft tyres were not lasting long at all. Very high wear on them. FP1, it was the Mercedes trading fastest laps, Hamilton leading the 1-2 from Bottas, and Ferrari and Red Bull were seen testing upgrades. Ferrari to a new front wing, Honda doing upgrades on their engine and some spec bits on the car as well. McLaren had a strong outing in FP1 with a new upgraded Renault engine. All the Renault runners, the 4 of them, except for Nico Hülkenberg, had new power unit. Hülkenberg didn't have the new power unit because it would have meant a grid penalty, and Renault didn't want him taking a grid penalty at their home race. But it looked good for McLaren because they were right up there in practice. Into FP2, it was still a Merc 1-2. This time it was Bottas ahead of Hamilton. Hamilton spun towards the end of Sector 1, took out the bollard, rejoined slowly, and was Verstappen coming through side by side into the next left-hander, and Verstappen ends up sliding and going off the track himself. The stewards looked into it. Oh, for God's sake. No action was taken, thank God for that, because you look at the angle Hamilton's coming back on, he knows there might be a car in the vicinity, he's going slowly, he's trying to avoid any hassle at all. He knows he needs to come back onto the track though. He's not on the racing line, he's off the racing line, and Verstappen just loses it on his own, just getting a little bit wide. Nothing happened. It was the right decision, thank God for that. Bottas was the only one to get a qualifying sim done on Friday. He was like 6 times clear of anybody else because he was the only one to get an actual clean lap and everyone else failed. FP3 on the Saturday, it was another Merc 1-2, still Bottas out ahead. The Mercs nearly half a second clear on anyone else. It was looking pretty ominous already. Into Q1, Grosjean, Kvyat, Stroll, Russell and Kubica. Stroll, no surprise. Russell and Kubica, no surprise. Grosjean, well, Haas are struggling, so not really a surprise. Kvyat's a little bit of a surprise. Toro Rosso's been pretty decent. Seemed to struggle here this weekend, so the Russian was out. He had a grid penalty as well. Took on additional power unit parts, I do believe. Q2, Albon, Raikkonen, Hülkenberg, Perez and Magnussen out. It was... I didn't watch qualifying, what I've read, it was pretty uneventful. And then in Q3, Hamilton pulls out pole number 86 by over a quarter of a second from Bottas. Leclerc in third, it was Verstappen P4, Norris and Sainz getting ahead of Vettel in P7. Vettel struggling down in P7. He had issues with his gearbox. I think it was a selecting issue. It's very slow in the upshift in his first run, and he just couldn't hook it together in his second run. So he started 7th. Ricciardo, Gasly and Giovinazzi rounding out the top 10. Into the race itself, and the top 3 pull away pretty well. Sainz battling with Verstappen, but the Red Bull manages to hold on. Vettel stays in P7. Norris got jumped by his teammate. Norris did start ahead of Sainz. Sainz got the jump on Norris at the start. And then nothing. until lap 5. Vettel passed Norris easily under DRS down the Mistral straight down to the chicane. Lap 7, Giovinazzi lost a place to Raikkonen. Well, Russell tried to go around the outside of his own teammate Kubica at Cygnus corner, that fast right-hander after the second part of the Mistral straight. Pushed wide as the Polish driver got his elbows out. Russell catched the 150 metre braking board with what looked like his tyre rather than his wing. But later on, he would need a wing change, so we'll come to that later on. That wasn't too good. Vettel passed the signs for P5 as well on lap 7. Again, DRS just far too powerful down that back straight. Lap 8, Giovinazzi was the first to pit. He was on the soft tyres, having got into Q3 for the first time for the young Italian, so he's starting to get something together at least. He dropped down to the back of the field. Lap 10, Perez got a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Now this happened on lap 1 into the second chicane, which I believe is turns 4 and 5. Now he took to the escape road, the painted area, and he followed it round the bollard. The problem was that when he was on the track before going off, he was behind, I can't remember which two cars it was, but he was behind two specific cars, and even after taking all the way that the FIA said, he came out, he was actually ahead of both of them. I think one of them might have been Grosjean, not too sure. But that way he gained a lasting advantage, so he got a 5-second time penalty for that one. Team weren't too chuffed with that. They'd followed all the right rules. I can see exactly what they think their driver drove around the bollard as expected, but he got a 5-second time penalty, so there you go. Lap 14, Hamilton complaining of a seat issue. Gasly wants more power to defend from Ricciardo in P8. And then a replay showed Albon passing Magnussen round the outside of the chicane, which was a very nice move from the young Thai Brit driver. And then Magnussen lost another place to Kvyat in the same place, almost the next lap. In fact, Kvyat done it into Cygnus, fast right-hander again, so that was actually a pretty good move from the Russian. Lap 17, Ricciardo pitted from P9, hard tyres rejoining P17. Magnussen pitted, he was now dead last, 20th. Next lap round, Gasly pitted, 18 laps on those fragile soft tyres, so he done pretty good. Rejoining P15, still ahead of Ricciardo, but Ricciardo then passed him under DRS before the chicane down the back straight. And I bet you Daniel enjoyed that one, passing the Red Bull and the driver that replaced him in his new car. I bet you that was pretty good. Lap 19, Norris and Perez pitted. Norris rejoined P12, Perez P16 ahead of Giovinazzi, who seemed to be struggling on race pace. Lap 20, Sainz pitted from P6, he rejoined P10 ahead of Kvyat and Norris. Norris passed Kvyat under DRS to make it McLaren's running in order. Lap 21, Verstappen pitted from P4, rejoining P5. Leclerc pits from P3, rejoining P4. Verstappen's on the radio, not happy with the response he's getting from the throttle pedal. It seemed to be a wee bit of issue. Christian Horner said it was just tweaking that was going on, but the Dutchman was definitely not happy with the response he was getting from the throttle throughout the race itself. Lap 24, Bottas pitted from P2, rejoining P3 behind Vettel, who hadn't pitted yet. Hamilton pitted the next lap. He stayed in the lead. That's how far ahead he was. He didn't lose the lead through the entirety of the Grand Prix. Tells you everything you need to know. Vettel locked up at the turn 1, pitted at the end of lap 25, started lap 26, rejoining P5 behind Verstappen, and pretty much stayed there for the rest of the race. Lap 32, Raikkonen's having a fight with Hülkenberg. He pits onto the medium tyres, having started on the hard tyres from down the field, rejoins in P12. Hamilton's complaining again that the hards aren't as good as the mediums, yet he's still putting in fastest laps. Can you imagine if he had a tyre he was happy with? Jesus Christ. Lap 35, Hülkenberg pitted from P6, mediums rejoining P11 behind Raikkonen. So that wasn't good. It was good for Raikkonen, not good for him. A slow stop though for the Renault. Bit of a sticky getting the left rear off, it looked like on the replay. Lap 40, Stroll decides to pit from P6 and the mediums, rejoins P13. Kvyat's fighting with his teammate for lap 45 for P14. Lap 46, Norris getting a message obviously about the hydraulics issue, which was to come back and bite him at the end of the race. Basically he had a hydraulics leak, he couldn't use DRS, he was starting to lose the diff, the handle, and it was just all going to pot for the young Brit. And then on lap 50, we get a virtual safety car. Grosjean is retired from the race at this point, which it was not a big issue really. Bollard in the middle of the track. quick virtual safety car, disappeared very quickly and underway. And didn't take very long at all, but Norris lost 5 seconds in a lap to Ricciardo. And it meant a last lap scrap over P7 with 4 cars, which we'll come on to in a minute. Vettel pitted at this point for soft tyres to go for the fastest lap. He did nick it on the last lap, so he got the extra point. That 4-way scrap for P7, we never seen live. Because during the virtual safety car, Bottas lost time getting caught out. That allowed Leclerc to catch up and be within DRS range on the last lap, so the director cut to that battle rather than the 4-way scrap for P7 way. Norris's ailing and weakened McLaren against Ricciardo, Raikkonen and Hulkenberg. So we missed it. And what ended up happening was that Ricciardo went round the outside of Norris into the chicane, ran both off the track with all 4 wheels, rejoined in what was deemed to be an unsafe manner after the race, pushed Norris off the track. Raikkonen got through it amongst all the melee, and Ricciardo then repassed the Finn down the straight, but pulled all the way off the racing line onto, you can see it in the front straight, the blue down the side of the track. He was all 4 wheels in that blue stuff for a proportion, made the pass. Balls to him for doing it. It was the barrier on the right hand side, but he was off the track. He finished P7 on the road. He got 2 5-second penalties, one for an unsafe rejoin and the other one for making a pass and gaining an unfair advantage, basically. So what that meant was it was Hamilton who took the victory. Win number 79 for the Brit. He is closing in very quickly on Schumacher's tally, a 91.12 to go now for Hamilton. You've got to think Hamilton is going to be the first driver to break the 100 barrier in terms of wins. And the French Grand Prix was his 200th points finish in only 237 starts. Regardless of car, let that sink in a minute. Okay, let that just sink in for a quick minute. Hamilton has finished in the points in 200 out of 237 races. That's an 84.3% strike rate for points finishes for the Brit. The mind boggles. Regardless of how good the car is, you've still got to finish. That's incredible. Took the pole, led away at the start, led every lap, would have had the fastest lap if it wasn't for Vettel. Only real issue seemed to be a seat, which was just causing him a little bit of discomfort, nothing else. 6th win of the year already. Championship number 6 on its way, really. Bottas in second, no man's land for most of the race. Lost 3 seconds under the virtual safety car when it ended, which allowed Leclerc to catch up, but the Monegasque driver couldn't get the job done on the final lap. Leclerc was a bit like Bottas, no man's land again. Not close enough to Bottas in general, but far enough ahead of everyone else. P3 though, you'll take that. Obviously that's 2 podiums in a row now for him, having got a podium last time out in Canada, so you've got to hope that that first victory isn't far away for him. That's certainly got to be the hope. Can you imagine if Leclerc wins the race before Vettel? Verstappen, it was another solid drive from the Dutchman. He wasn't happy with the throttle spottings, but that's more points, and I've lost track of how many points races it is in a row now for Verstappen, but it's certainly into double figures for sure. Vettel P7 qualifying, that ruined his race. Couldn't do anything, but he didn't have the pace. Leclerc's ahead, far enough ahead of Verstappen in the sister car, and Vettel was nowhere near the Dutchman. He struggled so badly, and people are wondering what's going on. It's a strange one. A poor weekend you'll be looking to put behind. Got the fastest lap, and congratulations to Vettel as well, because between the Canadian Grand Prix and the French Grand Prix, he got married to his long-term girlfriend, so I guess congratulations for him there. But he will not be looking back on this weekend, and I don't think a lot of us will either. It was pants. Sainz was best of the rest at P6. Solid race, good pace from the car, great number of points as well for him, just exactly what McLaren needed. Raikkonen would end up with P7. Solid race from the Finn from down the field. Could easily say a driver of the day performance, coming all the way up from getting put out early doors in qualifying. went long into mid-race before stopping, and it done the trick. Kimi doing what Kimi does, being dependable and reliable. Good to see Alpha back to scoring points. Hulkenberg would take P8, went long as well, allowed Raikkonen to stay ahead. However, there was a bit of mention that Hulkenberg was struggling, even with DRS, to get ahead of Raikkonen. There's just something about that Ferrari engine at certain points that just helped to keep it ahead of the Renault, even though their VMAX, their top speed, was the same. So that was an interesting one, but he took P8. Norris would end up P9. Should have been behind his teammate Sainz in P7, but that hydraulics issue meant he got swamped by Ricciardo, Hulkenberg and Raikkonen at the end. Obviously Ricciardo down because of his penalty, so Norris gets P9, but he would have been P7. He'd done the same as his teammates. Solid race from Norris, and it was more solid points either way. Gasly sneaks this last point in P10 with Ricciardo's penalty, but that is another poor performance from the Frenchman, and his seat, as every passing week goes by, becomes more and more perilous at Red Bull. Verstappen is smashing it in that car, constantly up fighting for a podium, constantly at the top end of the points, splitting the Ferraris. Occasionally, maybe, he's always splitting the Ferraris in some way, shape or form normally. And Gasly's nowhere. He's going to need to pick up soon, or Kvyat's going to be back in that seat, I think. That's my thoughts, but shocker of a race. 10th position, had no pace for the cars around them when Verstappen's got that Red Bull ahead of Vettel's Ferrari. Something's going on, who knows what it is. Ricciardo was P11 after his penalty. Poor start, got back through though. Good move on Gasly. Was P7, but those two penalties dropped him down to P11, so no points. But as he says, F it. He'd rather go for it than not go for it, so fair play. Perez got that penalty, the team weren't too happy. It was because he was ahead of 2 cars he was behind when he rejoined. Good recovery though, P12, not the greatest thing, obviously no points, but still a good recovery drive from him to get back through the field. Stroll from down the field again. Good start, ran long. I think that's 13 races in a row now out in Q1. He really needs to stop that. Again, like his teammate though, couldn't really do too much more. Kvyat started last with a grid penalty, managed some nice moves, and he got ahead of his teammate Albon, who started ahead of him on the road, so he's got to be happy with that, but ends a wee run of points that he'd had. Unfortunately, Albon behind him in P15. Poor start, cost him places, especially to Giovinazzi, not to Gio, sorry. His poor start, he reclaimed the place off of Giovinazzi later on, can't read more than writing, but Kvyat getting ahead of him despite starting behind is not what he needed. Giovinazzi started in the softs, done a 2-stopper. It would have been more than saying the result anyway. Team decided to just put him on some fresh tyres and let him just experience that, get a bit better at it. P10 though, into Q3 for the first time. It needs to start doing that in the race as well though. He needs to be up there fighting along with his teammate. His teammate showing how quick the car can be. He needs to extract the performance. Magnussen 17th, horrible weekend for Haas again. They seem to be struggling with the tyres this year with the new compound and the way it's been done. Not good at all for them, and it was, well, he was getting passed left, right and centre off of just about everybody, so not the greatest of the weeks for them. P18 was Kubica, so Kubica was actually ahead of Russell. However, Russell had to 2-stop. Remember I mentioned he ran over that bollard when Kubica got the elbows out? It did catch the wing. He didn't change it at the first stop, but it caused more problems and he needed to change it later on, is my understanding. Hadn't been for that, I think Russell would have still been ahead of Kubica. So there's a rumour going around that Kubica is going to be replaced mid-season by reserve driver Latifi, who once again had a FP free practice run, FP1 here this weekend, so 2 weekends in a row. So the rumour is, because he's got a bit of money behind him as well, he's going to replace Kubica mid-season. The team have denied this, but you never know. Money does talk in F1. Russell pushed wide with Kubica, and that obviously caused a bit of issues, which meant he did need a second stop later on for a new wing. To what I can make out, he would have been ahead of Kubica if it hadn't been for that, but he finished his P19. Grosjean out of the race, same issue as Magnussen. Both the Haas cars struggling badly. I believe they retired the car to save on wear and tear. In the championship, Hamilton 187 points, Bottas 151, Vettel on 111, Verstappen on 100, Leclerc on 87. Now just compare that, Vettel and Leclerc 111 and 187. Hamilton is only 10 points behind both of those guys combined. He's 12 points behind them. That's just ridiculous. Leclerc 87, Gasly 37, Sainz is only 9 points behind Gasly. 26, best of the rest. Raikkonen on 19 and Ricciardo and Hulkenberg tied on 16. Constructors, Mercedes 338 points to Ferrari on 198, Red Bull on 137, McLaren best of the rest on 40, Renault up to 5th on 32, Racing Point on 19 along with Alfa Romeo, Toro Rosso 17, Haas 16, Williams on absolutely no points, still stuck at the bottom, and they will be for the entirety of the season. That race was boring. I don't like using the word boring, but it was. I fell asleep for about 5 laps as well, so if I've missed anything, I don't think I have. That's what happened. I was watching it back and I still fell asleep. That's how bad it was. I seen bits on Twitter when it was on, and I could tell. I was like, oh, for Christ's sake. Total Wolf has said it was the track. There's meant to be the new rules, regulations coming out in June, the end of this month, but they've been pushed back to October. They need to be something good. They need to make these cars less aero dependent. I would like to see them a bit narrower and a bit shorter. I think they're far too big, especially for some of these tracks. But I'm not a technical genius, and I don't know what the answer is. But races like this aren't going to cut it. Any fans F1 gained through the Netflix series Drive to Survive would have walked away after seeing this, I think. This kind of race takes the casual fan out of the equation. That's not what we need. Thankfully, next race up is at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and it is this coming Sunday as well, so not long to go before that one. That's usually a pretty good race also, so fingers crossed we have another good outing in Spielberg. We've got the British Grand Prix on the 12th of July, German Grand Prix on the 26th, back to back with a Hungarian Grand Prix before the mid-season break. So a run-off, I think it's 7 races in 9 weeks from when the Canadian Grand Prix started, 5 in the next 7. So it's a good run here coming up. We're going to enjoy this summer as we always do, and hopefully we see some better racing than we did on Sunday. But that is it for today's proceedings. If you have enjoyed any part of this, which has been a bit boring I'm afraid, do hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you're notified when I do go live or post another video, and comment below what needs to be done to repair F1. What's your thoughts? Tell me below. Also keep an eye out for the last part in Le Mans month. We're going to be taking the Toyota Hybrid around the Nordschleife, and then when we get into July we're moving on to Ferrari month, so we're going to be looking at the Prancing Horse in July for that, so stick around for the latest in the Classic Cars series. And you never know, you might see some more bits. You'll see that there's been Renault TTP Cars League that I run in conjunction with TT Gaming Esports. Saturdays, broadcast out on Twitch. I post them up on here as well, so do look out for them. And who knows, you might see some random bits in and out as well. But that is it for now. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Hope I've not put you to sleep like the race did. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Ta-da.